Okay, so how can you approach somebody in a non-creepy way? And then how can you tell if they're single or not?
Hi, my name is Henry, and welcome to another episode of SF Yuppies. I'm here today with Rachel, a former D1 volleyball player and a senior recruiter at Temple. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
So, rumor has it that you're an expert on dating.
Yeah, I would say I'm pretty good at dating. I know my way around the social scene for sure.
What's dating like in SF? How is it different from other places?
It's kind of like everybody's on forever vacation here and nobody really wants to maybe like quote unquote settle down. I felt like when I first moved here, it was like going back to college. Like you would go to a bar and everybody wanted to talk to you and it wasn't as clicky. Like in Chicago, the people you go out to the bar with are the people you talk to and the people you're with all night. Like no one's really mingling unless you're giving it like a huge effort. And it speaks to how open people are in San Francisco to getting to know each other. So I would say SF is really good for like finding yourself and being single and like getting to know the city. But if you do find that person here, I do think it can go far.
What's your advice when it comes to dating online for both guys and girls?
I think dating apps are the greatest thing. I think people should go on them as much as we want to take that person home to your parents that you're like, oh, we casually met, out at a coffee shop while I was studying. Like, we all want that like perfect story, or like I was grocery shopping and we both reached for the carrots at the same time. Like, it just unfortunately doesn't happen. Or the person that you reach the carrots with, they're super hot, but they're dating somebody else and that they probably met on a dating app. So I think like nobody should be too proud for them. I think that they're awesome.
There's more guys than girls in SF. How can a guy stand out?
You being funny goes so far. Like I think I would rather be on a date with somebody that was hilarious that I maybe didn't have the most sexual chemistry with than somebody I was super attracted to, but it was like talking to a freaking wall. I also think there's like this sweet spot in asking somebody out and asking somebody for their number like right off the bat. Like I think it's always good to you don't want to wait too long, but you don't want to do it so quick. Like if I reach out to you and I'm like, hey Henry, what do you do for work? And we're talking a little bit and like you feel kind of the vibe, then ask for the number and then text for a day or so and then ask them to go out. Don't do it all in one full swoop. But also don't be on the dating app and don't get their number after like a day or so. Like if you've been talking for a day, ask for the number and move off of it. Because that's at the end of the day, that's what it's for.
For people who don't like to use dating apps, how can they meet other people in real life?
If you're looking to meet somebody, I think the best way of going about it is like looking to meet friends. Like I would go about it the same exact way. And a big thing that I did was I got involved. I obviously have the fact that like I have athletics in my background, which was helpful, but just getting involved with like Zog Sports, Play in the Bay, just a ton of other different intramurals like helped me meet people so much. I would say the first year that I moved here, I did ultimate football, I did kickball, and again, they're all centered around drinking, all centered around being social. Don't take them too seriously. But I met so many awesome friends through that, and that turned into I dated a couple people or went on dates or however you would like to call it. And then once you meet those friends and they invite you to parties, that's how you meet other people. And the cool part is people really really welcome like individuals just joining. So you don't need to join with a team. Like you can be a complete random. You just show up, and if you have a great attitude, it's honestly the greatest way to meet people.
How can guys approach girls in a non-creepy way and figure out if they're single or not?
I say like the best thing you can do is play on your environment and what's around you. Let's say you're at a park or something and like they have a dog. Obviously comment on the dog and how long have you had the dog, and just open a dialogue that way. I remember I was at a bar once and I probably ordered like the fruitiest drink that you can find, and some guy came up to me and like I think like grabbed the umbrella and like put it in his ear or something like that and like just said like, so like come here often, and like obviously he was kidding, but there's just something kind of like jovial and like funny about somebody kind of just like letting their guard down and just being funny. But for the single part, I don't really know. I think the only way you can really know is if you're talking to somebody and you're hitting it off and you ask them for their number and then they tell you I'm dating somebody. It's really all you can do. And then you're like, okay, cool. Well, met someone. So that's it. Yeah. That's all I got.
For people who are looking for long-term serious relationships, what's the most efficient way for them to meet the one. Efficient meaning that they put in the minimum amount of work to get the maximum result.
Well, it depends on what minimal amount of effort you're talking about. Like, is it their physical appearance? Is there minimal amount of effort of like the time they're spending with the person? What do you mean by minimal effort?
How do they make sure that they're not going on a bunch of meaningless dates and really use that time wisely?
I think people know within 5 to 10 minutes of their first date with somebody whether they want to see them again. And I do think a large part of it is mannerisms. Like, do they hold the door? And, do they like ask me what I want to drink and they will get the drink, and kind of like chivalrous stuff like that. But there's also small stuff of like, how do they talk to the waiter? And, how do they carry themselves when they walk into the bar? And what are they wearing? Those are more superficial things, but like those all play into like the person that he or she is. I also think a big thing is people think that like they just need to talk to one person online and they need to see where it goes, and then they like need to stop, and then they need to talk to one person online and see where it goes. Like, you're single, man. Talk to a shit ton of people. If you're like really single and you're new or you're like looking to meet people, like talk to 5 people at once, talk to 3 people at once. And, and then when you start to meet somebody and like see you go on the first date and you really like them, like then maybe drop them by the others by the wayside and see how it goes. And I think the other piece too is do as much kind of like recon or as much kind of like information gathering as you can before you go on the date. So you not like insane, like you don't want to meet them and be like, how was your Aunt Cindy's birthday 5 months ago? Like, you don't want to be like literally nuts, but do as much kind of like recon as you can, and then that way you'll know and you won't be like really wasting your time.
What advice do you have for guys and girls on their first dates to make a good first impression?
The unfortunate part about dating is that you go on these contrived situations, call them dates, with these people. So you're seeing the best version of them. You're seeing them at the movie theater, at dinner, at concerts, things like that. So you're doing all these fun things, but that isn't real life. That's not real. That's not who they really are. You start to get little glimpses of them. You get to meet their friends. You get to see their apartment, little things like that. And what I will say is don't ignore those things. There was one guy that I went out on a date with. I actually dated him. We were exclusive for like a couple of months, but I met his friends and they were the worst. They couldn't hold a conversation. They didn't care to hold a conversation. They were just super rude. They would get really drunk and like hit each other. And the thing is I ignored it, and it actually played into why we ended up breaking up, because you have to kind of realize like the people a guy or a girl chooses to surround themselves with like really is a true reflection of who they are. And then I've also dated a guy where like his place was an absolute disaster. Like, it was weird because outside of his place, like at restaurants and, as I said, concerts, movie theaters, like all of our dates, he was super put together. And then as soon as I got to his place, it was like Hoarders, like season 5. Like, it was so bad. And not that that's necessarily a deal breaker, but it's like that's part of who he is, right? So it's like, what else is he letting slip? So I wouldn't be so particular on the first date. I would be more particular about like month, 2 month in, and like really trust yourself on that. And if it's not for you, like don't just settle. Don't just date somebody to like freaking date somebody. Like, be single and enjoy it.
At what point do you say, okay, this is the right one, and I'm going to date this person exclusively? What are the signals? How do you know?
The tough part about that question is it's so personal. Like, it's so tailored to the person that's dating. I think, like, again, if I have to tie it to myself, like, them getting along with my family, them getting along with my friends was really important. If he was at a place where it was supposed to be really, really fun, concert with friends or out for like a weekend in Tahoe or something like that, and you want that other person to be there. And I think that's a tall sign of really like missing them and wanting them to be a part of it. And the fact that they like elevate your life, the fact that you're not like stressed out about them not being there or this or that. Like, if you just have a feeling of really wanting them to be where you are, or you're experiencing something and you're like, oh, Henry would love that. Or I'm going to text Henry this picture because I know that like he would love to be here, or I want Henry to be here. Those kind of feelings are real and you should not ignore them. There's no reason to not try. I think people are so scared of getting hurt or scared of it not working out that they don't try. But I literally am a true testament to the like love being the best thing ever. And yeah, I think you should just go for it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all your tips and advice.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Again, it was self-proclaimed, so you know, hopefully people can maybe take some from it or not something from it, but hopefully it helps a couple people out.
Can they comment on a video if they have more questions?
Yeah, of course. For sure.